Salutare la toată lumea! Bine v-am regăsit la Garantat 100%. Invitata noastră din seara asta s-a născut în iulie 1955 la Bhopal, în India. Este arhitect și designer urban. Este prima femeie din India care a reușit să înființeze și să asigure funcționarea propriului birou de arhitectură. În cariera sa de peste 35 de ani a creat peste 1200 de proiecte care s-au concretizat. În urma lucrărilor sale, care explorează ideea de reciprocitate și principiile sustenabilității, este considerat un pionier și un lider de opinie în arhitectură și în inovația socială. Este primul arhitect din India care a făcut parte din echipa de design și inovație a Forumului Economic Mondial, ocupându-se de rolul artelor în societate. E considerată o legendă în viață a arhitecturii, iar numele său face parte din topul primilor 100 de arhitecți influenți ai lumii, publicat de revista Il Giornale de la Arhitectură. Invitata noastră a fost inițiată la o vârstă fragedă în lumea profundă a spiritualității indiene, fiind o practicantă recunoscută a dansului tradițional Bharatanatyam, dar și o redutabilă vainica, adică un cunoscător de Saraswati Veena, un fascinant instrument muzical tradițional din India. Aflată în România la invitația Asociației Culturale Pro Event, ca invitat special al Forumului Internațional de Arhitectură SHARE, domnia sa a acceptat să acorde un interviu în exclusivitate pentru postul public de televiziune. Doamnelor și domnilor, suntem onorați să-i spunem bun venit la Garantat 100% arhitectei Sheila Prakash. Good evening.
Hi, good
Thank you so
evening.
much for accepting our invitation.
Pleasure is mine.
Before getting to architecture, which is our main topic, can you please describe what Bharatanatyam is, as a matter of fact?
I was really fortunate. I started learning Bharatanatyam when I was 4.5 years old.
Which is the correct pronunciation?
Bharatanatyam.
Bharatanatyam, okay.
So it is Bhava, Raga and Tala, and it is started by the Bharata Muni. So it's called Bharatanatyam. So the gurus that I had, I did a parallel education with the dance form as well as my school curriculum. So the gurus played a lot of mentoring role in my life as my teachers in school, more so than the teachers in school. So what I learned from them was about life and about focus, about passion, and about dedication and hard work. And this has really helped me even today. Along with my spiritual gurus. In India, you have spiritual gurus as well. So, you know, where I learned so much from them, gained a lot of strength and conviction to do and to follow my dream.
So this kind of dance is not only movement, but it's something more complex.
It is movement and it is emotion. So it is how you portray emotion. And then you work with music, which has a cadence which is called a raga, and the raga also depicts an emotion. And you have tala. Tala is the beat or the space between time. So which is so common with my architecture, because there is rhythm to be created, rhythm to be broken in architecture as well.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
As far as I know, in this type of dance, physically speaking, there are very difficult positions.
Right. Yes. Yes. Because when you sit, you have to sit. The main posture, the Natya Aramba that you have, there are certain ways in which you hold your hands, and then, you know, the footwork, you have to have a V position and you have to sit down, which really puts a lot of pressure on your knees.
Right.
So you get used to it. But like in ballet, you know, the way you balance. So it's very similar. So every art form, every dance form has its own, you know, different ways of, but it is strenuous, yes. It calls for a lot of practice.
What's the meaning of being a Vainika, and what's the correct pronunciation of that?
Vainika is an artist who learns how to play the veena. The veena is actually the instrument that our goddess Saraswati, the goddess of learning, has. So it is a very important instrument in the classical form of music. It's a stringed instrument. Yep. It's like the sitar. Down south we have the veena, and up north we have the sitar. Mm-hmm. So they are generally done by plucking, like the guitar. Yep. You pluck the string.
They're very difficult instruments.
Yes, they are. And it hurts your hand. And by the end of it, you have bruises in your hand and a kind of an indent which, you work with. And we generally oil our hands and then use it so that it doesn't cut through your skin.
Okay, to make a transition towards architecture in our conversation, as we know, as you said, architecture contains music and vice versa. You're also well known for the restoring of a famous temple in India. What was the story of that?
The Tanjavur Brigadeshwara temple has been my inspiration as a dancer as well as an architect. It's a wonderful piece of architecture which was envisaged by King Rajaraja Chola. And this he created as an edifice to bring about an ecosystem of development for the whole city. Those are the things that I really learned, how you need to include the public participation and how you need to, bring them into the system for it to be holistically sustainable and how the ecosystem then thrives. So this was a great learning. Even towns of today, I think, can do well to emulate this example.
How was it for a woman in India to become an architect and create her own practice?
Tough, very challenging. But because when I started, there were hardly any women architects, more so starting their own practice. But my father taught me to believe that if I work hard enough, I could achieve anything. And, I had an ecosystem. My husband encouraged me. Mm-hmm. So my family was, rallying around me. So I started this practice. And it was very difficult to get accepted as a woman designer, just as a woman surgeon is not accepted, but a woman gynecologist is accepted, or a skin specialist is accepted. So we were given interior jobs, not architecture jobs. But now it has changed, and I started using this to define the DNA of my design. So how I did it was I looked at strengths within me, and being a woman, what is special, rather than, competing with the men. So, I brought out that sensitivity, the nurturing effect of the ecosystem like a mother does in the family. So this is what my architecture is all about. And so it's very caring, and it creates spaces for humanity to develop and to, achieve their dreams.
At this level of your development, you use very nice words and very nice ideas. But at that time, when you began your activity, How was your practical thinking of dealing with prejudices as being a woman?
It was very hurtful, because sometimes I have heard things like, you know, she's doing it only as a hobby, so why would we give it to her? And you know, there are people who have said, how can I fire a woman, so I can't have her as an architect? But this has led me, on retrospect, into projects and into my belief and passion for holistic sustainability. So when I did not get the plum projects, I used to concentrate on cost efficiency, on energy efficiency. So this, you know, my focus path was defined by these instances. And I think that it is only providential that, you know, I was able to choose this against the usual commercial stuff, which meant that, you know, any architect could have done it. But then this kind of honed me towards a very sensitive, responsive way of architecture.
Some people, when they hear you talking about holistic sustainability, they might tell you that they could be very tough, and they might tell you that holistic sustainability is a concept valid only in conferences, that it will not apply to practical life, that it sounds very good, it's very noble as an idea, but it is not sustainable in itself. How would you answer to that?
In order to have a society or a community to be holistically sustainable, you need social sustainability, which I don't think anybody can deny. You need cultural sustainability, because we all belong to a certain culture and which we're proud of and which we identify ourselves with. So that kind of, you know, inspires people to work better. And then, of course, you need environmental sustainability, because that's the need of the day. I think we've plundered the planet enough, and today we are reaping the results of our plunder by the climate change that has happened, global warming that is happening. We're losing all our biodiversity. So everything is changing. So this, along with the rapid change of technology, is posing us a great challenge, because technology is becoming very disruptive. We're talking about 3D printing. We're talking about, you know, we're talking about artificial intelligence, machine intelligence. So this is very challenging for any architect also, because what is it going to be? What is the profession going to be 30 years hence is a big question.
Yes, but when you talk about sustainability, about holistic principles, practically you have to deal with billions of people. How can this be possible?
You know, I have, in fact, we are having the first event of what I call the Reciprocity Fest in Chennai on the Earth Day, and where we are trying to bring the governance, the stakeholders in the building environment, and the public together in one platform. It's like, I mean, I come from India, where cricket is a very, very important game. And it's like, you know, the city and the stakeholders are playing the game. The umpire is the governance who oversees the whole system and whether it is going as per rules. And then it is the public or the people, the participants and the spectators around who kind of inspire the game. So they inspire the game, they inspire the players to play better. And, you know, vice versa, when they play better, these people cheer. So there is a common goal. There is a common goal where people want to develop. And it's like that. So I'm trying to bring about this kind of an ecosystem in the design of the urban design of our cities, where people feel that they belong and they're proud of their culture, and, you know, they are able to empathize with and kind of dictate the route in which the stakeholders should move.
Some years ago in Scotland, I met a woman journalist from India, and her first question was, we were in a small town in Scotland, and her first question was, what's the population of this place? And she said, aha, this is a tiny fragment of the population on my street in Mumbai. Well, from this point of view, how would you describe your own vision of architecture as somebody coming from India?
Well, India, the problem is that, I shouldn't say the problem, I think it's our resources. Human resources are our strength. So we have many, many people. And when many people have to be accommodated, then you have not only higher densities, but you also have congestion. And coming from a developing country, the resources are not available to cope with the development. Yep. So, you know, it happens slowly. So by then, you know, there is a lot of chaos that sets in. So this is a challenge. We don't have public spaces, but though we concentrate on you know, we need public spaces. Yeah. So these are things which are challenges, and we're trying to remedify this and redefine these spaces so that the people would be able to feel as a community together in their prosperity. And we want to include the entire, you know, all the people, like whether they are economically weaker, illiterate, or, you know, well-to-do, together to be part of our growth story.
You often talk about this. As an architect, one has a huge social responsibility.
Yes.
Why is that?
I think human behavior is moderated and articulated by spaces, which is the built environment. And I think that spaces can be designed to heal, spaces can be designed to inspire, spaces are known to, you know, kind of nurture an economic development. So when we know that, I think as creators of those spaces, it's a very, very responsible job, because we are kind of creating dictating the destiny of humanity together. So I think that is the role that architects play, and it's a very important role. It's a very responsible role, and it has to be done.
I will come back to one of your answers. Can architecture and urban design solve at least some of the problems that occur in the major cities and metropolitan areas of the world? Is this perspective upon architecture and urban design a possible solution?
Absolutely, undoubtedly. If you have a traffic system or a system which moves people efficiently, automatically people get disciplined, because they know that they have to come down at a particular time, take a tram at a particular time, and they can plan it well.
Right.
When there is congestion and traffic in your city, you can always go late for anything and say that, you know, well, it was because of the traffic that I got stuck. So you know, you can't look at reasons outside of you for your lacuna or for your, you know, inadequacies. So I think architecture, this is only one example that I gave you. Like, there are so many things, so many spaces that I can enumerate for this kind of an activity. So you can inculcate discipline, you can inculcate identity by involving culture and in your spaces, and you can, you know, the sense of belonging.
Yep.
And once you do that, I think community performs better.
Yes, but in between this bright, wonderful, full of light idea, in between the architect and the society, is the public administration. How do you deal with the public administration? This
is something that is facing is a challenge in India as well, because the public administrators, you know, enumerate mandates which they think are good for humanity, and humanity looks at it with a certain amount of doubt. And, you know, though public administration says that, you know, you have to have public participation, they just want to do it as a checkbox. They don't want to really have participation. So, you know, they are scared that it will kind of stifle the process. So, you know, that is the reason why I want to bring this, you know, system where they work together, and you know, it's the joy of creation that is, you know, in the entire community, where it's like an orchestra, you know, where everybody has a part to play. And unless they understand that, then you're not able to create something which is holistic.
I was about to tell you, welcome to the club, when you talk about the administration, but you are society far more older than we are, so, okay, good. Is there any way to move forward from the classical dilemma of liking or disliking a particular building? And I refer to normal, typical people. Some will say that they like a building, but some others will tell you that they hate that particular building. How do we solve that?
You know, an architect as a creator is very intuitive. So when you're doing something for a particular society, it's the common perception that is, you know, taken into account. There may be instances where they are absolutely wrong, but this is a part of learning, and I guess. But generally, I think that if people's aspirations, people's psychological needs, and people's aspirations generally are taken care of, it would suit their requirements, and they would be happy about it. It's when they feel you know, belittled, or when they feel that their requirements have not been attended to, that they start disliking a building.
We have somehow a very functional problem here in Romania, and it's not common only with Romania. People liking or disliking fundamentally a building. So how do we detach the idea of architecture from liking or not liking a certain building? Can we do that? Is this possible?
It's a very, very tough challenge. So, you know, people are entitled to their rights, and they're entitled to their likes. So everybody comes with a certain feeling of what is right and what is wrong. So as architects, it is very difficult to kind of gauge. But generally, if you're doing something like housing for people, it's in public spaces that these questions come about. When you're doing something which is more functional, like a hospital or a community housing, then it's generally perception is gaugeable by the architects.
Because you see, we talk about a very noble profession, but at the same time, there are bad architects doing bad things. How can we solve that? Because that is very important. There are people doing harm to the public spaces for years and years. A building, an idea, can influence that public space for years.
Absolutely.
How can we solve that?
I think the people should come up with their reactions of spaces, and once that is known, but you must understand that only when something bad exists, good is realized. So good cannot exist without bad. So when people start realizing that a space is not responding to their physical and psychological needs, then it manifests as a bad design. So then I think the more and more people start voicing their opinion about spaces and say why, look deep down and say why that they feel that the space is inadequate, I suppose this would get solved.
How do you personally react when you see bad work from a bad architect?
I feel sad because I feel that being an architect, you're able to do so much. It's such a powerful profession. And, if the chance is given up and they do something which is detrimental to society, I feel sad. Yes, I do.
Can we talk about architecture and urban design in the case of building houses for the homeless people? Is that architecture? Is that urban design?
It is architecture. It is architecture, and I think it is our responsibility to see that every sector of the community is having an adequate home. But it differs, like how much they can afford. So affordability is a big question. So it requires a lot more research into lifestyles and into ergonomics and into space matrix. So, what is the space that is adequate for a family? How can you make it flexible?
Yep.
How can you make it flexible? Daytime and nighttime use is different. So how do you make it answerable to all the different generations that live within the house? So these are things that require a lot of care when you're doing something very small and very affordable for a particular community. But it can be done, and it is being done. In fact, I have done something on the incremental housing where a person who has no home is given a roof over his head on day one, and then depending on his pockets and affordability, he can value add to the house slowly. So you know, you have a home, and then you incrementally you keep adding things which make it, you know, even better and answerable to their lifestyle.
Sometimes architecture for housing is looked down at from some architects as being something elementary, something too simple. How will you judge that?
I don't think so. I think I mean, the responsibility of giving a convenient home to a family is so important. In fact, even more than, you know, doing a public space that, you know, 1,000 people will come by and spend about an hour or two of their lives in that space. This is something where the family develops. The family has to, their aspirations, their dreams have to come out. So I think it's a tremendous challenge. It's always a challenge. And why I see it as a challenge is because every family is very different. So how do you make it flexible, at the same time modular? It's a major challenge, but it is not mundane. It's not mundane. If you really have to do the right thing of providing the ambience, it's a lot of work and a lot of creativity.
Some people, and I will express now a very cynical position, some people will tell you that it is worthless to build any type of building for the homeless people because they will never understand how to live in a civilized building. They will ruin it. They will not take care of it. I mean, it's a very cynical position, but you're familiar with it.
Right.
How would you answer to that?
You know, there was this reminds me of in Chicago, they had this Hope 6, where, you know, the housing of the, you know, people who are into drugs, etc., was brought down, and an experiment was done. And this experiment had social housing as well as, you know, regular housing next to each other. And it was a big challenge that they took over because, you know, they didn't know whether it would work or not. And it was but then the experiment proved positive because the families, the children of the drug addicts and the people in crime changed because they were playing with the other children. And people, I think, however illiterate or however poor they are able to discern. They have the intellect to discern what is good for them. And when they see it, maybe they didn't have the opportunity. So it is, when once given an opportunity, I think they will do themselves proud.
How can we, all of us, how can we be taught to inhabit the towns and the cities, to inhabit this planet? Because it has to be a matter of education.
Absolutely.
How do we inhabit this planet?
This planet has been given to us, I think, by nature, and it's wonderful. And the global commons of water and air and soil has all nurtured this ecosystem of life. And we should be in a position to respect the ecosystem, the nature that has been given, as well as people and humanity, and be in a position to progress with what is given. So there's no point in aspiring for something that you can't. So I think humanity can definitely work, and the destiny of humanity can definitely be changed by the ambience and by the built ambience.
How can you talk about changing the ambience when we find ourselves, you and I, at the periphery, at the outskirts of a major town in Romania or in a slum in India? How can we talk over there about bright ideas and about noble things?
People understand. People understand. I have had talks with people of the slums, and they do understand what they lack and what they have. And it is not as if they are totally ignorant. Today with technology, everybody has a smartphone. Everybody is able to Google. Everybody knows what is available. So, I mean, if we feel that, they are ignorant, I think we are mistaken. So it is we who are ignorant, because when we go there, we learn so much from them. And it is a challenge to see that, their requirements are taken care of. I mean, affordable housing has always been a challenge, because they have certain aspirations, there are certain budgets, and then we want certain things as architects. And how do you marry and how do you synergize these requirements in a holistic way to see that, they ultimately, enjoy the benefit of the design is a major challenge, yes.
And how do we deal, especially with the way of seeing the society as being different? Different, I mean, in between citizens of the same society. And you know very well what I'm talking about, especially in India, for example, where social differences are so big. Sometimes we can talk about this in Europe, but sometimes we're more hypocrites when we talk about this.
You turn a blind eye to it. Well, in India, the value systems of an Indian family are really beautiful if you look at it. Like, every family nurtures another unfortunate family. They live with them, and they kind of, so this has been a part of our value system. For example, I remember as I grew up, my father's driver's family stayed at home, stayed in the, in a small room in our house, and that child couldn't go to school, but every time I used to play with him, and I used to teach him whatever I learned in school. And today I'm very proud that he's a postman. He's not gone to school, but he knows how to study, knows how to read, and he's a postman, and I'm proud about that. And I feel for that family. So once you start feeling for the family and you interact with them, you know that you are no different from them.
I will dig some more into this, but at the same time you will care for them, but in the common way of understanding, some of them are inferior and some of them are superior.
What do you mean by inferior? Is it because of studies? Is it because of lack of income?
I don't know, you tell me.
I don't think they're inferior. It is how you touch them that matters. And when you touch them right, I think the responses that it evokes sometimes is phenomenal and has so much of learnings for you. So then you feel that you are the one who's learning a lot from them.
But we still have in our societies untouchable people, considered to be untouchable.
Yes, it will take its own time to change, but it is changing. And well, if you talk about the caste system of India, I think we had the caste system primarily to delegate roles. So you had the Vaisya who was doing business, and then you had the Brahmin who was, the learned person, and then you had the Kshatriya who was the fighter, and then you had the Shudra who was doing the menial labor. But that, at that time, did not mean that one was, superior to the other.
I agree.
But it just happened that, with the passage of time, that the Brahmins felt that, they are learned, and therefore, they have a certain, upper class of society than what the Shudra did, which was menial. But now things are changing slowly, but it is changing. And I don't think everybody, a born Brahmin, does what he is meant to do. So, today, well, I'm from the Brahmin society, and I'm doing architecture and building work. So, well, according to this, I should have been an academician or learned Sanskrit and done the Vedas. So things have changed, and there is no society, there's no class, or this casteism is not so apparent. So it's the right time to kind of, include everybody and understand that things are changing.
How's India dealing with the growing population and with the poverty? Because this is a topic. On the other hand, India is a very powerful force in the world, a growing economy, and a member of BRICS.
Right.
What's happening in India right now from this point of view?
I think that as the community is, yes, we have a lot of poor people. We have about 70% of our population in the informal sector whose earnings are not documented. And they are the force behind the, it's not that they don't earn. They are very innovative. If you take the Dharavi slums of Bombay, you will find that the economic generation of wealth within the slums is phenomenal when compared to, maybe a middle income group outside. I mean, they are coming up, and well, they have to be given their right. And sometimes I feel that, they've been very unfortunate in, they don't have a right in society, and they don't have people, they're not accepted, and the police look at them as criminals because on records they don't exist.
Yeah.
So once all this gets done, I think people would be in a position to be accountable to themselves and accountable to the society.
I do have to be very clear about my questions. There aren't questions addressed from a person living in a superior country. We have more or less the same problems. There are really honest questions trying to find out how do other people think about this.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
And good luck with your activity.
Thank you so much.
Iar acum, evident, la garantat 100%, muzicile noastre de la garantat 100%. Ne revedem îndată.